it sucked it in. It just exceeds, and it sucked it in. It just exploded in, you know? I was at the very bottom, just cutting the very bottom. It just went, boom. It just sucked it in. I couldn't believe it, just into a, 5 or 6 pieces. You'll see this one here is one that I wouldn't be able to sell. As you can see, I almost made a funnel. Can you see that? A little light source in there. That is extremely thin, so that's one I couldn't sell, but we're going to go ahead and we'll decorate it. So I'll go ahead and start turning. Let me show you some pitfalls first. Before you do anything, make sure you take your cell phone off, and then your dog's in the house. Your dog is not near your leg. This piece happened when the dog jumped on my leg. Got very, very thin, and all it takes is one little boom when you're this thin, and it explodes. So,
isn't that a scoop, a special handle?
That could be a scoop with a person with arthritis or something needs to grab that.
Man's always a scoop.
Yeah. And this piece was another piece. This was the cell phone going off on my leg. When you're doing them this thin, like this, you can't have any distractions, so try keeping the distractions away. You put your finger in there, you'll feel right where it dug in as soon as the phone rang. And all it took was me jumping. So we can and be ready for failure. So you get a lot of failures doing them thin, but the rewards when you're done, I think it's just like a challenge to myself to see how thin I could make it, and yet it still be attractive. You can't make it too thin because then it's not attractive anymore. I've done some thin pieces that are so thin that when I pierce it, it almost turns it into dust. And that's a little bit too thin. It doesn't look as good as if you leave it a little bit thicker and get a little bit of a burn mark around the piercing, which I'll show you. Okay, so we'll get turning this real quick. We'll buzz this out, stick my fancy hat on here, and put the goggles on. I usually use a face shield, but talk to you, we'll just put these on tonight. So this will go rather quickly. So we'll just buzz this around and get to the inside where it's critical. If you have any questions, just yell them so I can hear you. Now everybody always puts a little calipers on here to find out how big their foot's going to be. When I'm done, I got tired of trying to monkey with that and catching it. I just made a yay or nay gauge here that I'll just use and just say, okay, that's good enough right there. Square those up. I just always look from the side. You got to make sure that these are good and square and you have a good seat to it. Otherwise, when you're putting a lot of pressure on these bowls, it will want to come out of the foot.
Do you use a ducktail?
Hmm?
You use a ducktail?
No, I use a stronghold. So what I do here, see how that wobbles? Most people would say, "Oh, that's good. I'm just gonna put that in my chuck." Well, with that not being flat right there, that'll rip out of your chuck immediately if you try putting too much pressure on it.
You have a slight dovetail on it.
You can stronghold straight. I do sometimes use a little bit of taper to it, but the biggest thing is this area right here needs to be flat against your tenon here. I'd rather have a little bit inside taper, and that'll suck right up to it. Okay, turn this quick. Now I usually, like I said, use dry a lot of fairly dry wood. And when you come out here with the gouge and you get to the end, on dry wood, that will, it'll just chip out really bad. So what you end up doing is what you're not supposed to do is come in from the other side. So I'd be coming in from this side in with my gouge, and that'll give me a little bit better cut. And on aspen, no matter how many times you cut it, you will get little pits here. So what you end up doing is you have to remember you can't turn it to finished size because you have to sand it. I have gone and done things too thin, have actually sanded through the piece and not turned through the piece. So you got to get those pits out, so you have to leave some wood to sand. Okay, sandpaper is wonderful. You know, something's not round, you can sand it round. So don't be afraid to sand. Everybody says, oh gosh, you got to be able to work with your tooling and get a finished cut. So you don't have to sand anything, but sandpaper is my best friend. So don't be afraid to sand. What I'm going to do here is just chew this up a little bit. Natural edge, you'll hear that hitting, and you're hitting wood and air. So you're basically turning air right there. When I turn, I'm always looking up here. You look up here at the shadow, instead of where you're turning, you'll be able to see what needs to go away and what needs to stay. I got a really nice cut on this, but I will show you how I come back in after I flip this around and I come back in from the other side. Are there any questions so far as I'm changing over this?
What kind of driver were you using? Drive center? What were you using?
This is a drive center, two-prong. I use a two-prong because I can move the wood around. The thing I didn't show you is when I mount that, so you're using the outside of your edges here. These wings are going to stay. So you don't want it to where you have a high spot here and a low spot here. See, this one does have a little bit of a low spot and a high spot. I will take and put that in there, and I'll take my tool rest and measure from side to side, see where my tips are. I don't want one way over here and one way down here. It's not going to look too neat. I will make a lot of bowls where I have a little bit higher in the back because I think it presents itself a little bit nicer to have a little bit lower spot on it, to have a little bit higher spot in the back. It kind of showcases it a little bit rather than perfectly proportional both sides. So that's what this one's going to be like. You'll see the side view there. This side here is a little bit lower than this side here. But that allows you, the two-prong allows you to move that wood around. The four-prong, you're kind of stuck there. I normally use different tool rests. I'll use a curved one so I can make my arc all the way around without moving the tool rest. So we'll clean this up, get this shape the way we want it. I will take the bark off of these. On the dried aspen, I take the bark off before I even turn teeth. But on these, it's too hard to peel off, so I will wait until we get a thinner wall and then we'll peel it off. Now, to show you how we do that other end, we're going to come back and go the other way. We would just go in and slowly take that cut past the wing until we get into some regular wood. You hear that wing hitting that. Now we're into the regular wood. And that'll give you a cleaner cut right on this edge here. Okay, so a little shear scraping. See, I try locking myself in and moving my body rather than my arms. You don't want to be trying to do this. It doesn't work too well. Right, good there. Okay, now we'll start on the inside.
Do you normally sand at this point, though?
No, I used to sand the outside and then started doing the inside, but anymore I just turn it first. When I do sand, I will sand the outside. If I think it's going to be a difficult piece, I will sand the outside finish. But I found that it was a waste of time on some of them because I blow them up and then I wasted my time sanding it and my sandpaper sanding it. So I try not sanding until I'm done now. It just depends on how bad any marks are in here that I have to sand out that I can't get cut out. So if they're really bad, then I'll sand it to the thickness because there's not going to be much left wood-wise to do a lot of sanding. So unless you leave it a lot thicker, but you get as good a finish as you can, and then you need to sand the outside, and that way you'll know you're finished, and you can concentrate all your time on how much thickness you need on the inside. So to move this,
it flexes a little bit when you're sanding. Does that cause a problem to you?
yeah.
Because it's got to flex as thin as you're turning it.
Yeah, what I'll do is I will. I must have cut my finger on that gouge. I will go and do it in pieces, and I'll show you how I do that now. But I'll do a lot of the sanding, especially on the wings. You have to do it by hand. You can't do it with it spinning. You can do the bottom, when it's spinning with your sanding disc. But when you get up top here, you're going to have to stop the lathe and do it. You can do it with a disc, but you can't have it running. Okay?
You can't have the lathe running, you can have the spinning disc running.
Right. You can't have the lathe running. You just got to do it by hand. My lathe, I can get right behind. I work off with a stubby. I can get right behind it. And man, I'm leaning like a stuck pin here.
Then head to top and move down towards it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I can
Probably have
I can straddle that.
first aid kit with a Band-Aid if you need one.
Yeah, just keep wiping it off. We need to do this in stages because this piece will warp as you're turning it. Light, because all you're going to be working on is a little edge over here. And if we blow it up, it won't go far, so the front row doesn't have to play too much. This light's not as good as I would like, but you seem to get it clean.
What type of lathe do you use in your shop?
I have a stubby.
Oh, that's right, you said that.
Take some of this bark off. And we're about down to where we want to be right now, and leave that for sanding. Back to, see if you get back, you'll be able to see. It's kind of bright in here to see with the light, but you can see some of it, I think. Can you see some of it from there? How thin that is? And we'll leave that good for right now. There you
So you cut your fingers first time you got a sharp tool?
go. Yeah, it's the first time I ever sharpened. All right, from here, then you want to take your next depth. Okay, so again, you're just doing it a little bit at a time.
What speed do you turn that at?
Fast as I can get it. Now it's, when I do the wings sometimes, I'll turn those up a little bit faster to give me a little bit more contact with the wood, because half the time you're turning air. So sometimes I'll turn it at a faster speed than you normally would, just so I can have that cutting a little bit cleaner and a little bit quicker for me, rather than trying to zip, 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 zip as that piece passes. The faster you are, the more times you're going to put that wood.
Phil, we have different gases you're using.
Yeah, these are just some bowl gouges. This one's ground with a 45 degree. The other one's done with like a, just like an Ellsworth type grind. This is the big one. This is the Hogger. Then I have a 1/2 inch that I use a lot. On the inside of smaller vessels, I used to use a big piece. I could actually turn this whole bowl with this one, but to get those fine little cuts, it's a little dangerous, so to speak. But you get a little bit finer cut. I find I get a finer cut with the regular M2 steel than I do with these new steels. I feel these can actually be sharper than I can get those. We discussed that before, and I think if I had a diamond wheel, I could probably get it sharper, but I don't seem to get those as sharp as I do an M2. And that's why I cut my finger on an M2. I didn't cut it on the other one. So as we go in here, we're going to have to take this tool rest and bring that in. The very good tool. They have a nice steel rod on the top. You don't get any dings, so it'll be nice and smooth. Because any little dings with this thin stuff will cause a problem. What you'll see is on my these tools here, I'll put a rubber stopper on it. I did that because I was always sanding the outside first. And I'd go in here and I'd take my reading and bring it up, and it'd be like, damn, I just put a big groove in it. So I put a rubber stopper on it, and I use the part that is not sanded on the inside. So we have a little bit. You can see we got a little bit there to take out.
Where do you get those rubber stoppers? The rubber stopper, where did you get them?
You can get those at any hardware store.
Okay.
Yeah, like Ace Hardware. I worked in the automotive industry. These were just caps from vacuum plug caps. This tool here is basically, I use this for doing the bottom of bowls, and I will try using the other end. This one, this is a double-ended gouge. Get in here and smooth that out a little bit. This is a long, tedious process. So it, and as I go down on some of my bowls, I will make them a little bit thicker. I won't keep them thin all the way. I'll keep them thin where I want it to be pierced. That's my important part. And then the other part, I'll let it go a little bit thicker. So if you were to try coming back up here now, you'd probably ruin it. So you got to be ready to say, okay, I'm done, and resist the temptation to come up and try another cut. Because this has already changed shape. You've taken the stress off the wood as you go down, plus just the water coming out of it a little bit will make this warp, and you'll lose the shape real quick. As soon as you try tooling it again, that's when you're going to ruin it. So that's why I'm saying go in stages all the way down. You don't want to go back. There's no turning back. And I have tried that many, many times, and it doesn't work.
So turning to the light to some degree?
Well, this one I can't. I will a lot of times just go into my shop and I'll turn. And some people have seen what I use. I think Drew has. I have a bank, a bar, and I got it out of where I used to work. That was around cars. It had these halogen spotlights. It's great in the wintertime, horrible in the summer because the heat generates is enormous. But it's all the way around my lathe, and it has about 8 lights on it that shine down. And I'll use that a lot, but when I'm looking at doing the thickness, I'll turn that off. A lot of times even just turn off the fluorescent lights, and I have another light that's on an arm that I can position wherever I want. This is the only thing I had to bring for this demo. But I will use a light just to see how thin I'm actually getting. But you got to be careful is that when it gets over into this edge of the bowl, that color changes. So if you're trying to get the same color as you are on the sides, by the time you get down here, you're going to go through because the color changes and you can't turn it to the same color as you're getting outside here. So you have to realize that as the grain of the wood differs, you're not going through basically end grain anymore. You're going through the long grain of the wood, and it shines. It allows the light to shine through differently, and you will go through it. So just be aware of that if you're going to use a light. But for demonstration purposes, we're almost where I need to be. I would spend a lot more time on this guys, so don't think it goes this quick. I would spend a lot of time on cleaning this up. Okay, back down to the next level.
Do you try to keep your edges consistent all the way to the bottom? Or do you leave it a little thicker at the bottom?
I'll leave it a little bit thicker at the bottom. Can use a dowel. A lot of time. What I have at home is, since I do these thin walls, I have a platform with it's basically sitting like this, and then I have a hole drilled in it with a dowel that goes this way, and then I have my laser pointer, a bar with a laser pointer on it above that. I'll swing that in, poke the pin right into that, and it'll shine right on where my mark is with my laser, where my bottom is. It's a lot more accurate than when you get into thin stuff. You're trying to say, okay, where am I on that? Right there now. A laser's more accurate. It'll put that mark right there. I can mark it. There's nothing worse than trying to make a funnel after all your work, like I almost did there. That was done just on trying to undercut the foot of the bowl a little bit. So you have to leave enough wood in there to do that, to finish up your bottom. Okay, so we'll just finish this up real quick here, and then I'll pass this around, and then when you're doing these natural edges, and you're trying to get in here to do this, you got to swing that bowl around, because remember, these edges are different sizes. So don't just think you have, I have clearance here, where this wing may be way out here. Oh, I have clearance here, and turn the lathe on, because then it's gone. It's history. Okay, so we'll just thin it up a little bit down the bottom, and then we'll be get to work on some piercing here. See, I'm not taking real heavy cuts, they're pretty light.
Do you ever scrape it off?
Sometimes I will just at the very bottom, but you gotta be careful, because if you try coming up with that scraper against the sides they're now deformed, instant, boom. It just digs right into it so quickly. So I'll use a scraper just for the bottom nubbin. That's what it looks like with the light on it from the inside. All right, I'll pass this around, and then so looking at that, we'll get started on the piercing. So I sanded it real quick. I'll be like they do at the bake shows. Put it in the oven, and then it comes out, and here we go. This is what we have. Okay? So that's ready to go. what I do here, explain some of the tools that I use. This is an air regulator gauge. This is used for my NSK. This is pretty expensive to do. I started out in piercing with a regular little die grinder. Okay, that's how I first started. And then I had a little Fordham. I used that. Then I used my NSK. I had my NSK and stuff way before doing this. I used to do a lot of decorative waterfowl. Took classes on the Chesapeake Bay for years and years. So I did a lot of decorative waterfowl, but it takes me 6 months to do one. So that gets boring. So I did wood turning in high school and got an old lathe and started wood turning again. And I really enjoyed it because I go in the garage after dinner and come out with something. I'm not spending 6 months of my time in the basement doing tedious work. This allowed me to do something quickly and just instant gratification. So I've had a lot of these tools and a lot of these burrs for that, and it just was easy transformation for me to use it in wood turnings. So I did use this. This is about 35,000 RPM. This here is 350,000 RPM. So there's quite a bit of difference where this one is some work. It takes a lot of time. This one you put it in the wood and it just turns it into dust immediately. So this is the route I use now. I would recommend if anybody really wants to do that, and I'm sorry I forgot, I'm over here eating my burger for dinner. I said, oh no, I forgot my hose for my dental tool. Okay, there is a special hose that goes on that. You can get a dental tool on eBay, $25, $30. And they do great. I mean, I'll use that sometimes when my hand gets tired of doing it this way. I'll take a break, be able to use it at a different angle. Okay? Highly recommend you just go on eBay. It's right out this thing.
It's going with bits. Does it use the same kind of bit?
Use the same bit, friction grip.
Okay.
Friction grip bit. Okay. 16th inch friction grip bit. And that works great. I did that for a while and then I got the NSK. This has been great because they're pretty pricey.
Is that one air powered?
This one here?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is air powered.
Okay. How many pounds?
It runs 38 pounds. And about the same poundage that I use on the dental. The dental one, you got to make sure you lubricate it every once in a while. You got to put a few drops of oil in the line. This one here doesn't need any oil, so this is a brainless deal. I tried one of those little turbo carvers. I burned that up in about an hour. It just doesn't have it. It's not industrial enough for me. It's expensive and it's just plastic. So a lot of people use it, but it didn't work out for what I do. Okay. It may work out just for piercing, but if you do any other type of carving, it just doesn't have the oomph. There's no power to it.
What kind of RPM does that dental tool give you?
That dental tool gives me about 350,000 also. Drives my wife crazy because she feels like she's at the dentist when I use this thing. I turn in the garage. I have a 3-car garage. Basically, 1-car garage is just a turning area, woodworking area. My kids try to encroach on it, but I just throw everything back out at them again. So that is my area. I have it heated. I went over to Dan Bailey's one time, and he had these great barn doors. I said, oh man, that's great. I used to go out with a heater that's mounted on the ceiling, a gas heater, turn it on, and a couple hours later, the garage would be warm. Went to Dan's house to visit one day, and I went home and made barn doors and closed that 3rd-car garage. I turned the heater on in 5 minutes, and I'm baking in there. So really saves the power, and after 2 hours of waiting for it to heat up, you kind of didn't want to turn it anymore. So I just said, forget it, just turn it off. So, and then I have in my basement, I have a room set up for carving. When I do my carving, a room set up for painting. So I use the carving room. I'll use that for doing all my piercing and my burning and all that sort of thing. And then I have a room next door to it that I just do for finish work. I'll do finishes on it. I'll do some airbrush work. All that gets done in a separate room. Keep down on the desk. All right, so I use magnifiers because I can't see a damn thing anymore when it gets up close. Laying out what you're going to do. What I'm going to do is this sort of deal here. To lay this out, what I do is take a pair of a little compass, cheap compass, it's like $1 or something like that, and I will say, okay, how big do I want that band? And I'll just take a look and I'll mark it and say, is that going to look right? Depending on the size of the bowl, do I need bigger, smaller? And I'll take it and I'll just lay that up here, and I go around the rim of the bowl. Okay, so what that does is it mimics the shape of the outside of this natural edge bowl. So your shape is here. Then I'll go back in and say, okay, I don't texture to the rim, because then your structure integrity is destroyed. We'll always take a little bit, leave a little bit of an edge up on top of that, and then again, the same thing.
So you've already removed the bark at this stage?
Yeah, what I'll do is a lot of times I'll take it off when I'm turning before, like on these, I'll take it off before the dry wood, I take it off before I turn, because as soon as you hit it, it starts flapping around at you and flying in the air. Piece that's going around, I'll shave that off. But after I'm done sanding, you'll still see some different variations, and that's what's nice with sandpaper. You'll go around and you'll say, God, I'm a little thick right here. That's the time you can take that and you can sand that down with your sandpaper as it's sitting on the lathe. You turn it to where what I'd recommend you do is you take it. If you have a Powermatic, you may be out of luck unless you make some sort of device that I see everybody making now to keep your lock engaged. As that's sitting in here, I'll lock that here, and I'll take my sander and get that wing, okay? Turn it around, get this wing, blend it into here. I'll turn it on and I'll do the rest of this with the lathe running. But here, stop it, lock it in, because if you don't, when you start sanding, the whole thing starts to move. So you want to lock it in, and that way you can actually sand down and get your final crisp thickness that you need, so it's even all the way around or on both sides. Then I will go, if there's any bark remnant left, I'll take an X-Acto blade and I will come down and I'll shave that all the way straight. And you do that after you sand, because whenever you sand, especially with a cushion sander, it will roll that over a little bit. You'll get a point here where it's like pointed. Okay, you'll get some areas that are pointed. I will go and I will cut that with a knife. Or if I'm a little bit too thin here and I'm thicker here, I'll shave this down with an X-Acto knife to get my same thickness, and then I'll sand this entire area flat. Okay, and that gives me my crisp looking edge, where in reality it may have been pointed here, but I shaved it back down to where it was square. Okay, I'm giving you my tricks now. I shouldn't do that. All right, so we're going to start piercing a little bit. This might be a little bit boring for you, but hopefully not. Bit-wise, I use some, these are dental bits. What I can do is pass one around. These are a few dollars a piece, so hopefully I get that back. You'll see how small they are. They're where you can come up here afterwards and look at what I use, but they are minute. And I also like to use bits that sometimes when they're fresh, they cut too quickly, especially on this soft wood. This is aspen. They'll cut too quickly and too cleanly. If they're dull, what they'll give me is a little bit of a burnt edge, which I've become to like. It gives me a little bit burned on the inside of the edge, and it accentuates the piercing a little bit more than just having a clean cut. Now, a lot of people will go and burns will go backwards, and it'll clean up that burn mark. I like the burn. So to each their own. Do that, just turn it on full blast, and I will usually sit here and I'll put this down here, and I will lock my shoulders, my arms in against my body, and do it this way. That's how I learned how to do the details on decorative carvings. Make sure everything's locked in. You know, a lot of people sit here and do things, but to me, out here, it's just like your leg. When you're out here, it can wander too easily, and you don't have control over it. When you're in here, you have control of it. My pinky usually gets to be aching, and I feel like it's going to fall off, because I'll use that to steady. Every time I do a cut, I use that to steady up. So I'm going to sit up here a little bit and take it this way. You also got to watch that your fingers behind it, and you don't drill into your finger. And then what you're doing is you're taking and you're going to make these little designs. Now you can make all different types of designs. You can make one line. You can make cutouts like I'm going to do here. You can do swirls. The biggest thing is when you start doing this, you have to try to do it as much as you can. Because you can't start out little, get big, go little again by the time you're back around here. You start out little by the time you're back over here. It's huge. So you got to be aware of how big each one of these walls are. You can do that all the way around the piece for it to look like. And then you're trying to, you can't touch each one together. So what you're trying to leave as much wood between mounts that I made with computer fans. They sell them if you look in any of the wood carving magazines. They sell these portable, like the dust collector for bench tops. It has a filter, 2 fans, and I have it to where it's on a variable speed that I've made just with old computer fans. And that's working. I'll put a fan behind me sometimes to keep the air going that way. And I also wear a dust mask because this makes a super fine powder. So it's you don't see a lot of salt dust because it's just so fine that you just don't see it. That filter sure gets plugged up again. So it.
You use a regular furnace filter or?
Well, it's a filter that I got from PSI for their benchtop one, but I just made those dimensions with computer fans rather than buy theirs. So it does create. You don't think it's doing it, but it does create a huge amount of superfine dust, especially on this aspect.
You recommend a particular source for your bits?
There's all different places. There's IDS Dental. You can ask your dentist where they get them. Craft Supplies now has them. Info has them on his website. He does a lot of piercing, and he just carries the ones they use for piercing. He also carries ones that he's using for some texturing. And he's very reasonably priced for his bits. But I actually got these. I bought some, I should say, off the internet, off eBay, that not worth a darn. I mean, every time I stuck them in a piece of wood, they bent and broke. They're just horrible bits. But I found these, which were the SS White. I found these on the internet one time, and I bought 20-some boxes of them, and there's 10 in each one. So I have got enough to last me probably the rest of my life. But that's the bit I use the most. I do have some other ones. They're just so minute. I mean, little tiny balls and diamonds and all kinds of stuff. I would make sure that you don't get a diamond one. Diamonds will plug up pretty easy doing this. You need a cutter. And the cutter I use is number 699. And I also use a 170L, which the L is a little bit longer length.
Are they just high-speed steel, or are they carbide?
They're carbide.
Okay.
You can get some that are high carbide. These ones are carbide. High-speed steel ones you're going to replace a little bit more. To clean these, I'll just use a soft, like an aluminum type bar. I've even using a old wheel weight, which is like a leadish type substance, and I'll, as it's running, swipe across that. You can also just kind of pick it off with your finger from time to time. That's all you need to clean. This one burr is probably done 5, 6 turnings, so it lasts a long time. I mean, they don't break too easy, especially in the soft stuff. Hardwood, you probably need to replace it a little bit more often. Or if you're trying to go like Dan Bailey, he tries to do it an inch thick. I mean, it doesn't work too well. Dan asked me to come over, one time I went over and he says, "Man, I'm having a hard time doing it." Well, it was like, I think it was about a 1/4 inch thick. Yeah, it's tough.
I've got bigger holes.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you'd have to do that. You'd have to do that in steps, actually. I mean, you have to go around a couple of times, trying to plunge that thing all the way in and trying to get the thing to cut. It was a little bit tough. We'll get a little bit more done here, and then we're going to be a shape.
Where did you come up with your design?
I just wing it. Everybody says it's one of those things where you start start something and then you just do it.
Have you tried anything different?
You know, I have. This is different.
Just smiley faces or anything?
This is different. This is actually different than the one that I have up on the table.
If you're friends with your dentist, he'll give you these throwaways, which are too dull for teeth, but are fine for wood.
Yeah, you got it. You know, it's funny because Dennis left me alone in his room one time. That wasn't a smart idea. Well, I came back in and I was looking at all this. What are you doing? You know, I was like seeing all the birds that we had. They don't use a lot of these types of birds. The person that'll use this is somebody who makes bridges and stuff like that. The regular dentist, he uses a lot of little balls. You know, so if you're into that, I was sitting there trying to figure out, okay, which one's going to cut, because I'm paying the guy enough. I figured he owes me, right? But he caught me, so I couldn't get him. But they use a lot of little balls, and a lot of those guys, they keep forever because they keep cleaning them. It's a carbide one that lasts quite a long time, so you know, wherever I ask, never has any, you know, so. Personal friend of ours is a dentist. I keep asking him, and I just keep getting blown off. So I'm not going to hold out for that anymore. So I just go and buy what I need. Everybody is starting to use this. This is getting very, very popular. New Craft Supply, he must not sell these anymore because he did have them in his catalog. I don't see them anymore, but he still has some of the bits. So you go online and you'll find his catalogs. Like I say, Big Info has them. And he recommends, he even tells you on his little chart there what he uses them for. So that's a very good source. That's where I got my first bits was from him. I'm still using some of those bits. So they last a long time, so they'll go up outside. I think you have to go buy a gross seller because you'll never use them. It's like me, I thought, oh, I'm gonna buy all these up. And it's like, God, I could probably sell one to everybody here, you know, because it'll last forever. So I'll pass this around and they can see what I'm doing here. What I also do is these little bristle discs, because this will make fuzz. And we'll use these little bristle discs. I have them in different grits, and I will go and use that, and I'll go in through here and just lightly blow that. Take some of those fuzzies off, because you will get some fuzzies.
Now you're doing that much slower, right?
Huh?
You're doing that slower. You're not doing that at 300.
So this only goes up to 35,000 RPM.
Okay.
So it's a lot slower. Then I have another one that is a Scotch-Brite pad. Those Scotch-Brites. I have gray ones which are fine, and I've cut those into circles. I used to use this on my texturing and on my decoys. As I made it round and I put it on a mandrel that you could buy. It looks just like this mandrel with a screw in it. And I use that in there, and that it buffs up the wood and takes all the fuzzies off of it. So when you put a finish on here, you have all these fuzzies raised up. Okay, so I can pass both of these around and look at those, and almost out of time. So I will. discuss how I do these. These are done the same way. Wall thickness is calculated when I do the turning. I got this from info also. Give credit where credit's due, right? I'll do my turning on this, hollowing out. I will get down to a certain level, and then I will drill some small holes where I know, like this piece here, I'm going to bring this piercing down and probably come around with it, okay? Don't want to put it in a straight line, because when you pierce that, you might see that same, you may have to make a little bit bigger hole, so you'll see that if it's a straight line. You'll be looking at that saying, there's a big one there, big one there, big one there, big one there. So I will move these so they don't line up. What I'll do is I'll start doing my turning, and you can, when you have that hole here, you can see the side of that hole. Okay, so you know how thick that is just by looking at the side of it. I will turn that down to there. I have my other hole here. I will turn in here so I get to the same dimension as I did up here, and then make sure it's smooth in between. Okay?
Are you using a gouge to do that?
I'm using, no, not a gouging here. I'm using just a hollowing scraper. And I have on my bar. I will be in here doing that and seeing how thick that is. And then what's easy with this is you can put a light in here, and you can easily see the shoulders of your holes to see how thick you're getting. Up here, you can feel it with your fingers, you can feel it with your gauges. When you get down in here, it's harder to see. So I keep going all the way down, turning that to where it's the same thickness here, and make sure the blend between them is right, all the way down. Then on these, I do need these thicker at the bottom, because you do need a little bit of weight at the bottom, so it sits on the table. This one has a little bit of weight on the bottom. You don't want to go the same thickness all the way down. So that's how I set the hollowing up for the thickness when I do these guys. Okay, so when I do show you this is a little extra thing. Doing texture, everybody says, well, God, how did you do that? You know, David Ellsberg, gee, you must know the black brush. And it's no, each one of these little lines is done with it's a 3-step process, 3 or 4-step process, or we say. When you put lines on, everybody says, well, they're just going to burn them in. They're going to go and they're going to burn lines into something, okay? If you burn it in, you're only getting one texture depth. Okay, on a feather, on a bird, I had to carve the feather, sand the feather to an extremely fine finish. And then I would texture it. What I texture it with is these little white stones, just the tip of that little white stone. So you run your texturing with that. So just basically on this polished wood, texture into it. And then go over it with the burning pan. That adds another depth to your texture rather than just little lines popped into the wood. You understand that? It's hard to envision. But you gotta have a depth that's this thick and depth that's this thick. You gotta have different depths, and that gives you a different reflection on the piece. They're all the same depth, it'd be like, geez, it's just like, it looks like a painting. Same thing when David does his airbrush. Okay, you have different depths to the paint, different coats to the paint. Same thing here. You can't have all one depth, it just doesn't look right. If you look at this, you'll see all different depths into the piece. So I'll go over, I'll start maybe with this is a little diamond. I'll go and bring in, this will give me a deep cut. I'll go in with this and give some deep cuts. I'll go in with the white stone. I'll go in with a white stone with a real sharp edge. That'll give me little cuts in here. I'll do all that, and then I will get in with the burning pen, and that'll finish it up. And there's a zillion little lines. Okay, some are short, some are long, and then when I'm done, I'll turn the heat up a lot, and I'll even add in some more depth by really burning the piece. Okay. Tell you what, I'll just show you. Show you on a ruined piece. I was like,
What do you do on the perimeter of the texturing that gives such a clean look?
on here. Here you
The
go.
the outline, yeah.
Okay. How I do this is I come. Like I told somebody years ago, I think David was there and laughed his ass off. When I said, you know, I'm not a straight kind of guy. And he took it as something sexual, and it wasn't meant to be that. But I don't like anything that's perfectly straight. So I will take and run a piece of this tape, which I know David uses also, don't you, David? Pinstripe tape. What's nice about this stuff is you can take, say, what do I know the kind of shape I want, but I'm not sure how it's going to look. Okay? So I can take this tape, I can bring this thing.
The chart pad, chart pad tape, isn't it?
It's just
Or, yeah, well, it's pinstripe,
The
okay.
painters use it, a lot of painters will use it.
Okay.
In automotive, that's where I ended up getting it, was from our body shop. And same thing as pinstripe tape. But what they'll do is they will run that up. And what that does is creates a sharp line. You can't get that line with masking tape. I don't care what kind of masking tape you use. Everybody says, oh, blue tape. Now there's this new tape out that supposedly doesn't let it bleed under. But it will bleed under. It doesn't bleed under this tape. So they will go and get their nice crisp edge where it won't bleed under. Then they'll run the regular masking on top of that. Okay, that's how a automotive painter gets that sharp edge. It won't bleed under this plastic. But what you need to do is you got to make sure that it's nice and compressed in there. Okay, there actually are little metal tools that you can run on there that really make sure that's flat, and you will not get any paint that goes under that. But I like it because I can get a nice smooth line. I couldn't get that with white masking tape. And then I'll just take a pencil, and I will come and just run down that edge. Okay. Now, I can take that off and I know where my line is. Okay. Then I will go and I will take the roto chisel, take a hand chisel. If you're going to do a lot of this stuff, what I'll do sometimes is I'll leave the base on like this. I won't turn it all the way off. That way I can put it in too bad Trent's not here because I put it in my Trent Bosch vise, you know. And I'll put it in there and I will do my carving. What I'm doing is here is I'm cutting a line in here a little bit deep. So you gotta be aware how thick your piece is. I've done that before, really nice piece. And I'm trying to cut my relief in, and I actually have gone through the piece. And tried super gluing if it doesn't look good. So, you know, that piece is wasted. I just won't continue on that. But I'll take my chisel and I'll go right down that line, and then I'll come over to the inward side, say this is going to be relieved, and here's going to be darker in here or something. this piece here almost looks like this is wider than this. In reality, it's not. It looks that way because I've taken it and I've relieved it here and tapered it in. So it makes this look like it's bold. You know, it's bolder than everything else. This piece has not been sanded down. This edge has been cut in. And then I will do and go in and do my texture. I'll go in and just do, and I'm going to start my texturing. And I also don't do straight lines. Try not to do a straight line. It gives a little bit more action if you don't do a straight line. And we'll put the whites down, give it a little bit extra, a different depth to it. Again, this really helps if you have good light, because if you're looking at reflection, you're really not being able to see a whole lot of what you're doing here. And there we can, I just turned down pretty good bit because aspen doesn't need a whole lot of heat. Cherry needs, this piece of cherry here, this needs a little bit more temperature than that aspen. When I put this in the aspen, it'll go right through it. Then from here, I would just start coming down and burning lines over the top of that. What you're looking for is you're looking for high spots in the piece that don't have any texture to it. And you're leaving the deeper texture, and you're putting a fine line on the blanks, on the low hairs that didn't get any texture. Then, what I use for painting that, I will go and I will tape up what I don't want to be painted. I'll run that blue tape back along that edge. Make sure I have a nice crisp edge there, and then I will basically I use high-tech paint, spray paint. It's just a flat or a matte finish.
Do you use a rattle can or do you use a compressor?
Grab can. Real easy to do. And then from there, like another piece I had recently in the last show, I had, I'll maybe put a little airbrush color on it, just to brighten it up. I do a lot of this on wood that we get locally, because a lot, frankly, it doesn't look that great. I mean, it's very plain. I don't go out and spend a fortune on exotic pieces of wood. I get my wood from the dump, people's yards. Get it from the wood bank, and a lot of it, unfortunately, is plain looking. This gave me the opportunity to dress a lot of the pieces up. make something out of something you would normally, you know, you could put a finish on this, you'd be like, "Oh, that's nice." You could do some burning or some texturing to it. It really makes it like, wow, it's pretty cool. A lot of people look at it rather than just pass by and say, yeah, no, this is very, very blah. You know, it doesn't have any ripple to it, nothing. So next to this, I will just go ahead and burn, and you'll see a difference in what the piece looks like if you just burn it compared to its texture. Okay, see the difference in here. You can feel the difference and you can see the difference. And once that's painted, it looks that looks a lot deeper than if we were to just put those little lines on the paint. Your paint would probably fill in a lot of just the burn lines. It would disappear. Because this burner is very, very sharp and cuts extremely fine lines. Not unless you sit here and hold that sucker, and then it gives you a wide line. I don't think it gives you as an appealing finish as doing it multi-level. Clean these. Everybody says, oh, I got those cleaners out there and all that. What I have here is a piece of 600 grit, like dry paper, just a piece of wood. Just lay it down where you want it. 2 swipes. It's clean and sharp again. Okay. I'm glad I buy those cleaners. Some people. 2 little swipes of 600 grit sandpaper. You're ready to roll. Keep them sharp. You want them to flow through the wood. You don't want them to drag. The crisper line you make, the better I think your products will look at the end. I think I covered that. Do you guys have any questions or anything?
You said you put the tape on, you marked it with a pencil, and then you take it off,
Yeah,
and then you put it back on. Why even take it off in the first place?
because I'm going to cut in right at that edge.
Okay.
So it's just going to get destroyed. So what I'll do is I'll take this tape and run this right back in that groove. Because you got to overlap it a little bit because you got an overcut there. And then I'll take that and I will roll and make sure I roll with my fingernail right back in where that texturing is. Okay? Then if you take this off and you see, oh geez, I missed it a little bit, you know? Get a little paintbrush and spray a little bit, a little cup that you just clean. And I'll put that back on there again and I'll tape up the rest of it. And then I will, with the regular tape. And then I'll spray that by hand. That's it, and I'm going to airbrush that and bring that in. I would come in this way first and do a fine line in here to make it a little bit darker. Then come back in, hit it where it hits that line, but it also hits over here to give it a blend. Some of my airbrush paints, I will go and put iridescence in them, iridescent powder. That I've had when I'm doing deep coating work. A lot of the feathers have some iridescence on them. And I'll mix a little bit of that in the paint, and that'll just give it a little bit more of a shock. You don't have to go use as much paint color, but you see a little bit of iridescence in it. And it makes it a little bit brighter and sparkles it up a little bit different than the next guy.
Makes it look like a hot rod dinner, right?
Yeah. I always try doing a little bit different than the every piece I do, you know, a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I make the piece, the wood do what I want. I do to a point, but I also try letting the wood tell me what it wants to do too, what it likes to be. You know, there's some pieces I try forcing the wood to be what it's not supposed to be. And I think at the end, the piece looks like you forced it. Or a lot of times I'll just say, you know, I'll let it be what it wants to be. And, work on it from there. Sure, David has done that where you let the piece be what it wants to be. That's how you get a lot of names out of your pieces. Because it does, you let it do what it wants. Is there any more questions?
You showed the stuff to your best friends in the old trades?
You know, I took a piece in, he was kind of amazed, and still didn't give me a break, still didn't give me any bits. So,
I got one more question. I'm looking at the sizes of all of your pieces there. Have you ever done anything larger and with the same technique?
no, I plan to though.
Okay.
I do plan on getting some bigger pieces. I have messed with doing some different textures. I mean, burning isn't the only texture I do. I do some, you can go in with these little balls, or all different things. I mean, I even have gone in and done indentations with a little vibrating engraver, you know, and I've made bits for it to where it's rounded on it, you know, imprint some divots in it. Got Lackeys I had a couple years ago. That I did with all different size spears that indented the wood. And then I did burning on that one also. So that was a little bit of everything on that one. But there's so many different avenues and textures that you can come up with. These are just a few. I figured I'd show you real quick. There are different things out there that you can do with a piece of wood to dress it up. I think the name of the game anymore is unfortunately that the plain wood is gone. It's how much you can embellish your turning anymore is what you're seeing in magazines. I don't like turning them into something that doesn't look like you've never had to use a lathe for. But these things sell quicker than if I just had a plain piece of wood out there. I can make these basket bowls all day long, you know, but when I put this on, you have so many more people stopping and looking at it than if it was just, you know, just look like this. And that's nice, but when it has that piercing on it or a design of some sort on it, more people stop and look at it. So I have to go with what people like and hopefully sell a few pieces along the way. But have fun along the way and learn each time we do one. Any more questions?
Thank you.